So, back for another edition of Catching Up. My name is John Barry, Sports Communications Director at Whitman. As I live and breathe, Joey Hewitt with us, very famous face at Whitman Athletics. Hey, just before we got on, you were talking about somebody stole your catalytic converter. What?
Yeah, thanks for having me on first and foremost. But yeah, it's been an adverse week to say the least, and I didn't even know what a catalytic converter was until just now. But I'm learning the hard way for sure.
Your cat's been stolen. Is that what you just said?
My cat's been stolen, so that's honestly one of the least of my problems right now. But yeah,
All right. So when I asked Joey on, I just asked him to give me a synopsis of his post Whitman career, and it was quite in depth. Playing in different cities, masters in sports psychology. We'll get into some of that, but maybe just for the people watching, just kind of give a brief synopsis and catch up what you've been doing since summer of 2019.
yeah. So graduated in 2019, and I actually went on a pro tour, like an exposure tour throughout Europe. So I got to travel across about 10 to 20 different cities in the UK. So I was in Scotland, England, Wales, and Norway as well. And I was playing up there every day against pro teams. And out of that, I got a internship with a pro team in England, actually. And so I was there for about 3 months in England after I graduated, doing sports psychology internship with pretty much like their high school team, and then practicing with a pro team. And shortly after that, I went to Australia to go play in a professional league down there. And sadly, that's about March 2020 was when that season was supposed to start. So you can kind of put the pieces together. That season got canceled, fully canceled from COVID. So I went back home, kind of reassessed things, and I actually ended up going to England, back to England after that to go study and get my master's in sports psychology. And the plan was also to play in England for a low level professional team there. And that whole season got canceled as well. So I actually had back to back seasons canceled trying to play pro basketball,
No way.
and still got my master's, which was cool. It was a 1 year master's. It happened to be in all lockdown though. So it was mainly virtual, and there wasn't much to do. And it was just a lot of free time. So that's when I kind of started to really pursue sports psychology more. And I actually started an Instagram account about all my sports psychology content and stuff like that. Created a website as well. And after I got my master's, I pretty much opened up my private practice, and I now work with clients mainly over Zoom, but some in person, doing mental skills training or mental performance training. So we work on stuff like meditation, visualization, positive affirmation, self talk, and stuff like that. And it's stuff that I worked on when I was at Whitman. And I struggled with confidence growing up. I struggled with a lot of the mental game growing up. And so it really just felt like my calling. And, ever since then, I've just been really pursuing that field. And sorry, excuse me. And yeah, I actually was lucky enough to go down to Mexico as well and play in a professional league down there. So it just felt good after getting 2 seasons canceled to finally get to play. And I played in Mexico last fall and this past fall, so 2021 and 2022 for a team in Mazatlan. And all while doing that, I've been kind of building my private practice in sports psychology, and just kind of now where I'm at, I'm done playing. I would say this might be breaking news on on when it comes out, but I'm done playing basketball overseas. I'm done playing, and I'm really looking to transition now into more so mental performance coaching. I'm actually up in the Bay Area right now. I'm on staff at my high school, Acalanes High School in the Bay Area. And so I do work with them. I'm a coach for them, and I'm also just more so the mental performance coach for them. And so yeah, just doing work with some teams and doing work with some clients and trying to just build up my practice as a mental performance coach.
Yeah, you mentioned that over email. That's something I wanted to start with. You know, talk about what what got you into that work, and just some of the challenges in that field?
Yeah, I mean, it's basketball and sports in general is it's a grueling activity or a grueling hobby per se. It's definitely caused a lot of a lot of good feelings in my life, but it's also come with a lot of negative feelings in my life. Like I used to, when I would have a bad game, it would ruin my the rest of my day. I was very attached. I attached my identity to basketball a lot growing up, and I found that not only just made me less happy, but it also killed my confidence. It made me more stressful and more anxious as a person, and some real things started to really come up in my experience with basketball. And I realized like I could either just quit and stop playing, or I could use basketball as a kind of a platform for me to work on these insecurities and these problems that I feel like I have. And so that's really how it started. I'd say at Whitman, I really struggled my freshman year. I didn't play that much. And then the year after that, Coach Bridgeland, who was the coach at the time, got me in touch with a sports psychologist named Graham Betchart. And he's one of the top mental performance coaches in the United States. He actually works for the Sacramento Kings right now. So I started talking to him and just getting more info and kind of learning about the mental game. And that's really when it started to click for me. Like, this is what I want to do. I can use my experiences, my struggles, my failures, and kind of teach others how to deal with it and go about it in a different way, or learn how to at least cope with the feelings in a different way than I did. Because when I was growing up, I didn't have any of these resources. I didn't know about sports psychology or anything about the mental game. So that's really why I got into it, is because I kind of want to start teaching it and start giving it as a resource to younger athletes at an age that I didn't get it at. Specifically in high school is when I think it's really important, and around like late middle school is when kids should really start working on stuff like mental health and not identifying with your sport, not attaching your identity to whatever sport you play, and just learning how to deal with that stress and that pressure that comes with sports. It's a very, it brings up a lot of our own insecurities. So it's a great opportunity for us to learn how to, get past those and deal with them on a daily basis.
Yeah, I mean, you're probably well aware, this is in the last several years, there have been a lot of public, incidents about, prominent athletes that you think are doing so well that you never know what's going on behind the scenes and the challenges they face. So definitely much needed work in that field. Good to see that you're taking a lot of interest in there. What have you learned so far, since you kind of started your own company and really gotten into the profession?
Well, I've learned that everyone's different, right? And one thing that may work for me doesn't work for someone else, and I'm sure everyone knows that. Just being a part of sports, there's some people who are very energetic and very hyped up before a game, and some people like being more quiet and more reserved. And so, I think what I've learned is understanding that it's not a blueprint. It's not just, okay, this person comes to me, this is what I'm going to do with them. It's really just about building a relationship with someone and learning about kind of what makes them tick and what makes them perform well, and in essence what makes them perform poorly. And I think that's been the coolest part for me, is just learning different stories. And I've worked with people from all levels. I've worked with a 10-year-old, I've worked with a professional basketball player, so I've done everything in between. And just being able to see the differences in how people kind of deal with stress or deal with pressure. The same situations come up, but everyone reacts in a different way. And that's something I'm still learning, as far as how to approach that with each person. And at the beginning of it, it all comes down to just building a relationship with someone and getting to know someone. And that's you know pretty natural for me. I love doing that in general. So that's been something that I've definitely taken so far as I've been in it, is understanding it's not just one path to being able to be mentally tough or mentally strong. It's a long, windy path, and it's different.
It sounds like you're learning a lot. What would be like the next level for you in this field? What are your goals going forward?
Well, I mean, working with my high school team, I've been here in the Bay Area for about 3 weeks now, and it's been awesome. Just being able to be a part of a team is definitely a goal of mine. I'd love to work with like a Division 1 program, or even like my mentor Graham Betchart, who's a mental performance coach for the Kings. I mean, that's definitely a goal of mine. Like, I'd love to be at the top, mainly because I want to see how the top athletes deal with this stuff, and how the high performers um, operate on a day-to-day basis in regards to the mental game. Because I have clips of it. There's interviews you can see of people of what they do when they feel stressed, and my Instagram has a lot of content on what the best of the best do. But I think my main goal is to be in it and be surrounded by those high performers, just to kind of promote that high mental strength, or that those people who know they've been doing this for years, they know how to deal with their pressure, they know how to deal with those emotions that come up during the game, and that will teach me even more. So that's definitely the goal. That's where I want to be.
I want to switch gears a little bit, talk a little bit about your pro playing career.
Yeah.
Australia was your first stop, right? I know you said the season was canceled, but did you get a taste of kind of the professional game, while you were there? What was that like?
Yeah, I mean, I was there for 2.5 months, so I got to definitely get a feel for it, and I was comfortable down there. And it's different in every country. That's something I would say. Like the professional game in Australia was completely different than the professional game in Mexico and even England. In Australia and England are two similar to America's English speaking countries, but the cultures there are completely different. The main thing I learned, I think, is as a professional basketball player, it's very, very important. And I touched on this before, but it's very important to not attach your identity to the sport you're playing, because when you're in college or when you're growing up, you have other things in your life, you have other hobbies, you have school, and you have other things that are taking up your day, and things that will naturally kind of get your mind off of sports. But when your profession is playing sports, it's very, very easy to just add more pressure, add more stress. I mean, I'll never forget, I actually got hurt on the second practice when I was in Australia, and my coach jokingly, but I don't know if it was jokingly, made a statement. He's like, "You better keep your bags packed." And it's a very volatile world. Like, you could get cut in an instant, you could get sent home, and they could buy that flight for the next day. So it's very important as the athlete, as the player, to not overly attach your identity to that as like, oh, I'm only a basketball player, I have to be here. Because the more you do that, the worse it gets, the harder it is to actually perform. And it took me a while. It definitely took me a bit. Even when I was in Mexico and I finally got to play, my first 3 games I played, I believe I was 3 for 27 from three. It was a disaster. It was an absolute disaster. And I remember thinking like, oh my God, I'm gonna get sent home. And weirdly enough, when I didn't get sent home, I realized like, okay, I can fail. I can literally shoot like Draymond Green from the 3-point line and still be here. And that kind of opened up the rest of my game and allowed me to perform at a high level, because I stopped caring. I stopped caring about my identity or my profession as a basketball player. It's an important lesson to learn for sure.
Yeah, I don't think Coach Prison was going to send you back to Arizona after missing a few shots. so
No,
so I
right?
can see how that would make a big difference. Uh, you said that your season at Loughborough got canceled as well, and you earned your master's. Obviously, you went and completed it. Talk about. I know you went to Mexico after that, but were you able to assimilate into the cultures a little bit? I know you mentioned just a second ago about not attaching your identity. Were you able to kind of make some inroads in the community and the culture, just to not have it all basketball?
Yeah, for sure. And I think that was probably one of the coolest parts about traveling and playing overseas, is you don't feel like a tourist because you naturally are already a part of something. Mainly, I'd say I felt this in Mexico. England was more lockdown, so we weren't really able to even go do stuff. To be honest, it was a lot of just hanging around, and I definitely got to know a lot of the guys. And I'm still to this day, like, the British accent, like every time I hear it I smile, or I have to like not laugh, because it's not in a bad way. It's just a funny accent to me. Especially Paddy the Baddy, if you guys know, the UFC fighter. He's from Liverpool, and I actually, one of my best friends from England, who I got to know and got really close with, he has that Liverpool accent. And that's, I love the guy, but I think the main reason I connected with him so well was because of the accent. And just getting to be a part of a culture and feel like you're a part of something. Like, you're not just a tourist in there who's like, oh, he's the American. It's like, no, I'm with a bunch of locals. And I think I felt that the most when I was in Mexico because everyone sees me and I stick out like a sore thumb because you can call me gringo, you can call me güero, whatever you want to call me. I know people who speak Spanish will know what I'm saying there. And it's very easy to get labeled as a tourist and people will literally come up to you and like, oh, buy this, buy this, buy this. But when I'm with like my teammates and when I'm surrounded
Mm.
by kind of people who are already within that culture, I feel more a part of it and people aren't coming up to me as a tourist as much and they're showing me around and stuff. So that's one of the best parts about the experience is being able to go and travel but not even feel like a tourist.
How is you kind of touched on it earlier, but how has you know your basketball experience, whether it's collegiately, professionally, how has that aided in what you're doing right now? You bringing into personal experience into your current profession as a mental performance coach.
I think it gives me a very unique position in the sense that I have so in the mental performance world and the sports psychology world, a lot of these people are not athletes. Most of them maybe played at the high school level, maybe there's a couple of them who played past high school, but most of these people are not. They don't have they don't necessarily have like their finger on the game as closely as I do, and I am literally fresh off of a season in Mexico, so I just feel like I can relate to players a lot more than the typical coach or the typical sports psychologist could because I've been there. I've been through all of it, and my sports career has been far from just all up. It's been a roller coaster of a ride. I've never felt consistent, just consistent success in sports. I've always felt like I have failures and success, failures and success. And so just my experiences being able to play basketball growing up and play at past college, go overseas and travel gives me not only a better feel for the game on the court, but it also allows me to relate and kind of understand what people are going through off the court. Specifically, I talk with a guy who plays overseas right now, and I can relate to him not only just like with how hard it is basketball wise, but also like being lonely. Being the only person who isn't a local out there. Maybe you have one or two guys who are Americans, but everyone else, is a local player. So just being able to relate to my clients and to the people I work with more has been, I'd say, the biggest takeaway from my experiences with basketball.
Well, Joey, this has been really awesome. I'm glad to have not just brought you on just talk about the pro ball you've been playing, but some of your current work is invaluable. Thanks so much for coming on. I wish you the best of luck going forward. Maybe we'll catch up again in the future. But yeah, thanks, Joey, and have a great day and good luck. All right.
Sounds good. Go Blues.